For the first time ever, it's a special presentation of Deadliest Warrior live. Hi there, I'm Kieran Elliott, and welcome to a very special live presentation of Deadliest Warrior from the Aftermath Studios in Los Angeles. During tonight's showdown between US Army Rangers and North Korean Special Ops, you become part of the show. Dr. Dorian, Jeff, Mac and I will be dropping in live throughout the show with updates and analysis. And we'll respond to your questions in the aftermath, and we will be tracking your votes on who you think will win. So vote now at dwlive.spike.com. Mac, do you have any hints on what our audiences can expect?
Well, you got two very deadly warriors in this, and you've got great experts as well. So this is as real as Deadliest Warrior actually gets.
And this is a battle that could actually happen at any given time.
No doubt, and it's going to happen on the north, in the Korean Peninsula. So yeah, it's a real battle that could happen.
This is as real as it gets, as he says. Mac, Jeff and Armand will be tweeting during the show, so make sure to follow them on Twitter. Armand, what is your take on this matchup as a doctor?
You know, for me, this was the most intense show that we've done to date, and I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Do you think it's going to be a close one?
There's no question it's going to be close, and kind of got goosebumps watching the show develop as we shot it, so let's see how it actually comes together.
Absolutely. The trailers look fantastic, and the show looks awesome as well. And if you want to get in contact, tweet your questions and look out for our trivia posts for the chance to win awesome giveaways, including signed copies of Mac's book, Unleash the Warrior Within. And if that's not enough, we have a very special guest joining us tonight. He is the expert on one of the season's upcoming warriors, so you don't want to miss this. Jeff's got a little bit of a hint for you. Jeff, let's see it.
Exactly. Our special guest is one of the team members that led the hunt and capture of the man that wore this uniform.
If you recognize that uniform, you'll know who you're looking for. Let's get to it. It's North Korean Special Ops versus US Army Ranger.
Typically on Deadliest Warrior, we look at warriors that actually existed throughout history but never met on the battlefield till we put them in our sim. But for the first time on Deadliest Warrior, we've got two warriors that could carry out this battle right now. The North Korean Special Operations Forces versus the US Army Rangers.
This is an incredible matchup. The North Korean Special Operations Forces keeps challenging South Korea and the United States. It could lead to a war with the North Koreans. It could actually lead to World War III. The North Korean Special Operations Forces, these are the very best of the very best that they have in North Korea, because they are extremists, they are fanatical in their behavior, they are very dangerous. On the other hand, the Rangers, they're the world's most elite light infantry unit. Every major engagement the U.S. has ever found itself in, the Rangers have led the way. If North Korea actually invades South Korea, the Rangers are going to have to step up to the plate and take on the North Korean Special Operations Force.
I'm also excited about this matchup. Both of these guys are pushing their body to the limits. They're very closely matched up here. It's going to be real interesting to see.
That's why I think this is the most relevant matchup, perhaps in Deadliest Warrior history, because this could actually happen.
North Korean Special Operations Forces, the SOF, extremist super commandos, poised to launch a communist invasion of South Korea, versus the U.S. Army Rangers, America's premier light infantry division, who would lead America's massive counterattack. These two elite special ops forces face off to decide who will win an all-out war that could erupt at any moment. Who is deadliest? To find out, the history of war and modern science collide as former Navy SEAL Richard Mac Makowitz dives deep into the tactics of the warriors behind the weapons. Biomedical engineer Jeff DeMolin applies 21st century technology to unlock new data on arsenals of the past. And ER physician Armand Dorian dissects the trauma and reveals the physical and psychological traits that shaped these legends of war. This groundbreaking data will be paired with historical research and entered into an all-new digital combat engine. Two legendary combatants will be resurrected. History will be rewritten. But only one will be crowned Deadliest Warrior. Welcome to the Fight Club. Here our experts match critical weapons data with the latest military intelligence to determine which of these highly trained Special Ops divisions is deadliest. The fierce and fanatical North Korean Special Operations Forces, the SOF, who spearhead the military of the world's most dangerous rogue nation, or the U.S. Army Rangers, the elite Lightning Strike Force, always first to the battlefield when America goes to war.
When there's so many factors, I like to start at the bare minimum, my tail of the tape. We've got the Army Ranger. He's 5'9", he's 24 years old, but he's about 175 pounds. Versus the North Korean Special Op Forces, he's 5'6", 3 inches shorter. He's a little older, 27. They're usually about 135 pounds. So about 40 pounds difference. That's going to be a factor if it comes down to hand-to-hand. Doc, you couldn't be more right. When you look at this matchup, the U.S. Army Rangers are the very best that they can get in the U.S. Army. When they go through Ranger School, they only have 1 meal a day. They have to operate all day long and all night long and have a ton of real-world experience. But with the North Korean Special Operations Force, they are taken out of orphanages sometimes at 2 years old and indoctrinated into the program. They're tough, they're hard, they're willing to put down their lives for a unified Korea.
You're absolutely right, Mac. And because these guys operate in smaller units behind enemy lines, they keep mobile. And when you're mobile, you got to carry light handheld weapons. So we're going to test their go-to weapons: sniper rifles, assault rifles, and anti-personnel mines. This battle would take place on the Korean Peninsula, so that's what we'll plug into the sim.
The digital combat engine was created by Robert Daly, a former Green Beret. Daly has designed over 30 military-based video games, including the Deadliest Warrior game. His latest high-tech creation will evaluate complex weapons data, plus up to 100 different X-factors, critical intangibles that are given values based on analysis of the warrior's battle plans, tactics, and psychological profiles.
So the X factor of terrain has got to play huge in this matchup.
For this conflict, we know it is going to occur on the Korean Peninsula. The North Koreans obviously are going to know that territory inside and out.
But you have to remember that the U.S. Army Rangers have fought everywhere. I think it really comes down to operational experience.
The Rangers have always been able to adapt and overcome any situation. But the North Korean Special Operations Force is going to have an advantage.
Taking aim at the U.S. Rangers for North Korea, Charles Joe. This Korean-born SWAT team commander is an expert in the small unit tactics used by the SOF.
The North Korean Special Forces, they've got the discipline, they've got the training, and you can't negate the fact that they are on their home peninsula.
Providing first-hand experience of the Communist Commandos' tactics is SWAT team member Ji-Jae Kim. A former South Korean Marine, Kim spent 3 years under the constant threat of invasion by his radical neighbors to the north.
It was drilled into our heads that the North Korean Special Forces are very well trained and they're very disciplined. Their loyalty is to the extreme.
Providing intelligence on these fearless soldiers, Tom Ricks, a former U.S. Army officer who gathered intel on the SOF while stationed in South Korea.
They are the most fearless, brutal, and fanatical soldier out there. The whole purpose of the North Korean Special Forces is to really deliver that death blow, that decapitation to the South Korean government and military.
In 1953, at the end of the Korean War, the Korean Peninsula was split into Communist North Korea and Democratic South Korea.
The North Koreans, they've always wanted unification, but they want it under the iron fist of their ruler and their regime and their ways.
To achieve this goal, North Korea's maniacal leader, Kim Il-sung, formed the Special Operations Forces in the late 1960s. Today, the SOF has grown to over 200,000 troops, fanatical and ready to fight.
They have conducted numerous infiltrations into the South for the purpose of reconnaissance, intelligence gathering information to create a massive surprise attack on the South by sea, land, and air. The objective is to sneak in to take out the airfields, key nodes of transportation, communication, wreaking havoc on the South Korean and the American military.
For the past 6 decades, the United States has stationed thousands of troops in South Korea to protect its important economic and strategic ally. Any attack by the North would be considered an act of war, and the U.S. military would respond with swift and decisive force.
This could ignite a geopolitical firestorm that is going to engulf not only the whole east of Asia, but draw the entire world into it. The North Korean regime, they are not afraid to use nuclear weapons that they may be stockpiling and will not hesitate to kill anyone within their pathway.
First to the fight, the legendary U.S. Army Rangers. This rapid response light infantry force can be deployed anywhere in the world in 18 hours. Fighting for the Rangers is current Ranger and combat expert Tim Kennedy. A sniper specialist, Kennedy served 2 tours of duty in the Middle East and was awarded the Bronze Star for Valor for his heroic actions in the Iraq War.
We don't fight fair. We have a ferociousness, a tenacity, and this violent approach to battle. Killing's what Rangers do best.
Also battling for the Rangers is former Army officer and military historian John Locke, author of 4 books on the U.S. Army's elite fighting force.
The U.S. Army Rangers lineage and legacy starts before the formation of this great nation. You can go back to 1755 when outdoorsmen by the name of Robert Rogers formed a colonial militia.
Fighting in colonial New York, the unit, called Rogers Rangers, defeated their Native American adversaries by adopting their unconventional tactics.
Setting up long-range patrols, going deep into enemy territory, quick ambushes, quick slice and dice, and then withdrawal.
Modern Army Rangers were formed in 1942 during the Second World War. The mission of this light infantry division, to lead the fight and be the first boots on the battlefield.
Light infantry means that you bring a great deal of firepower to bear at one decisive point in a very quick time. Alerts called, you have 2 hours to report in, wheels up, flying off into combat anywhere in the world. The intent of the Rangers basically is to kick in the damn door.
Rangers have led every major U.S. conflict since World War II, including the current wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
No light infantry in the world trains harder, trains better than the U.S. Army Ranger.
I am so happy that we are considering both historical and present data off these 2 warriors as far as X factors are concerned. But to make the sim complete, we've got to get you data off the weapons. Let's go run some tests.
If this World War III scenario were to take place, both the U.S. Army Rangers and the North Korean SOF would begin by seizing and controlling high-value targets all across the Korean peninsula. These seize and control tactics start with long-range firepower, sniper rifles. U.S. Ranger sharpshooters take aim with the SR-25, a high-capacity semi-automatic carbine.
.308 caliber. It's a semi-automatic. There's a buffer assembly reducing some of the recoil. Box-fed magazine, which has a 20-round capacity. I was in Afghanistan, ambushed, overran, literally shot. Gun saved my life, and the magazine capacity was a big factor in it.
And that makes a big difference when you're talking, especially in urban environments where you have a lot of targets moving around very fast. You want to acquire those targets and deliver those rounds on there and get your buddies out of there in one piece.
Your job will be on the top of that hill in an overwatch position, supporting a platoon-sized unit assaulting this high-value target.
The objective: overtake a simulated communications outpost defended by 6 enemy soldiers, 3 static guards, a hidden sentry, and a roving commander. The final challenge: locate and kill a camouflage counter-sniper. To test the SR-25's accuracy and target acquisition speed, Tim must eliminate all 6 enemy targets as fast as possible.
The big thing to be aware of is you got a chain link fence. So you can't just count on one round doing the damage. You're going to have to actually make sure those targets are down before you move on.
Tim, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Light them up.
That's it.
That's a hit.
That's it. Come on. There you go. Done.
Oh, man.
Done.
It's going after the sniper. Where is that sniper?
It's right over there. That's 3. All targets are down. Excellent work.
1 minute, 48 seconds. Nice work.
Tim scores instant kills on the first 5 targets.
You've got an entire body that's literally cut in half and on the floor. That usually means that the round is tumbling before it hits. If you take a look at the chain link fence, there is a link that has been hit, making that round tumble, causing all this trauma.
You know what really surprised me was the lack of actual velocity dropped, moving through steel length, hitting the target.
Completely agreed, Mac. But in a situation like this where it's tumbling, you're going to get a much higher percentage of transfer of energy to this body, and that's what we're seeing here.
We're also now have the psychological impact here. Commander has been taken out on the move. with some great shooting. These poor guys back here don't know what to expect.
You know, and that's psychological warfare, which is an X factor we can factor into the sim.
Did Tim kill the counter sniper?
Oh, you're gonna love this.
It actually goes through the side of the scope here and then comes out the back and hits the face. Definitely instant kill.
He's a counter sniper. You know, his purpose in life is to get me. So I have to assure that I kill this guy. So I have to put some extra rounds in there to know for sure.
That's one of the biggest advantages of having a 20-round magazine.
Absolutely.
All right, Charles, what do you think?
I think it's pretty good shooting. However, this PSO, you can do just as much damage, if not more. With this heavier load, packs a bigger punch.
Next, will the North Korean sniper rifle outgun the Rangers?
Oh!
And later, the showdown between two of the world's most elite modern-day enemies moves into close quarters to see who would win the war of the future. Today.
The Army Rangers take advantage of every single possibility that we can. We want the numbers in our favor. We want the weapons in our favor. We want everything in our favor so that when we go into a battle, we already know what the outcome is going to be, and that's Rangers win.
The U.S. Army Rangers, specially trained light infantry forces, first to fight in international hotspots like Grenada and Panama, versus the North Korean Special Operations Forces, cold-blooded commandos, handpicked to do battle from North Korea's vast communist army.
The North Korean Special Forces training is legendary in a brutal way. They practice martial arts a minimum of 2 to 3 hours per day. They also put on 60 to 80-pound rucksacks full of rocks and sand and hike up these very jagged, steep mountains. These people train slightly better than Olympic athletes.
The Rangers fight first, testing their SR-25's accuracy and target acquisition speed. Now it's the North Koreans' turn to pick off the enemy with their go-to sniper rifle, the PSL. The workhorse weapon of communist bloc countries since the 1970s.
This is a standard platform of the classic Kalashnikov AK-47 rifle. They stretched out the barrel length of the gun, which can accommodate a heavy round. It's very simple, very durable. I can throw it down the ravine, pick it back up, and it's gonna fire true.
Charles will have 2 10-round magazines to take out the 6 targets. The time to beat, 1 minute, 48 seconds.
Light him up! Nice! That was a hit.
Heavier recoil, man, that takes a long time.
Yeah.
There you go. Nice, clean shot. It's a good hit.
Oh,
There you go, that's clean.
Nice.
Moving on to the sniper.
Oh, that's a hit.
There you go. Nice.
All targets down.
2 minutes, 7 seconds, Charles. A little bit slower, but let's go check out your targets.
Good job, brother.
All right. Cyclops kill. This guy's moving, flailing. He's brained it, but the heart's still pumping. That has got to send chills to the rest of the crew. So there is an X factor of psychological warfare there.
Knowing that this was their commander, I had to make sure he was down.
The PSL matched the SR-25 kill for kill on the first 5 targets. But what about the counter sniper?
Okay. Guys, take a look at this. It's a crowning shot. You hit from the top of the head all the way through his spine. This guy's done.
All right, Tim, what'd you think, brother?
He was a lot slower than I was. Well, he, of course, has a 10-round capacity in each of his magazines. So he had to change in between there.
We're talking about seconds that we're shaving off. I'd rather rely on the PSL's proven track record for 60 years out in the field.
Not only is the weapon a very reliable weapon, you have to think about the operator. The North Korean Special Forces, they know the terrain. It's their backyard.
There's one other factor that hasn't been talked about here. It's one thing to be able to run up and down a hill and to periodically do infiltrations in and out of South Korea. It's another thing when you've had 7 conflicts since Vietnam. Guys like this have the actual operational battlefield experience to put lead on target, and as we've seen down there, take down the enemy.
In this particular matchup, when you're talking about operational experience and terrain, both happen to be X factors that we plug into the sim.
The Rangers' SR-25 and the North Koreans' PSL both kill every target. So which sniper rifle gets the edge?
For me, it's the time. 1 minute 48 seconds with the SR-25 versus 2 minutes and 7 seconds with the PSL. And why was that? Well, when you get that large recoil, it's certainly going to take your sight picture off that target. You're going to take you that extra 2 seconds to reacquire that sight picture, get back on target, and send another round down range. That is the difference for me.
Looking at it from a doctor's standpoint, the recoil that you get with the PSL, but if I was to pick between two weapons, I'd rather have the one that has the less recoil because it's going to do less injury to my shoulder or less long-term effects.
I'm a big fan of the AK functionality. You know you can take it anywhere and it's going to do its job. But when you're talking about surgeons on the battlefield, that SR-25 is going to deliver that round where it needs to go when it matters most.
For long-range weapons, Edge, U.S. Army Rangers. When both warriors move into close quarters combat, they rely on their hand-to-hand fighting skills.
Guys, I'm actually excited to see this demonstration. Hand-to-hand combat training is absolutely critical for success on the battlefield, because if you screw up there, you're done.
The North Koreans utilize a combination of Taekwondo and Hapkido. Grandmaster Song, a former South Korean Marine and one of the world's foremost experts, demonstrates how Hapkido focuses on redirecting the force of an opponent's attack.
Hapkido is circular motion. We use the enemy's power to kill.
The shoulder is one of the most vulnerable joints in the body. Utilizing its weakness is what we're seeing demonstrated here beautifully.
Hapkido also exploits more than 200 pressure points on the human body.
Right there, you've got your carotid artery, you've got your internal, external jugular. All of those can be pinched off, and he's actually trying to grab and tear that.
Now, you're going to demonstrate some Taekwondo for us, correct?
Absolutely.
A former South Korean Marine, Jay is a 7th degree black belt in Taekwondo, the same deadly discipline utilized by the SOF.
Hapkido is using the opponent's energy against him. Taekwondo is striking.
Multiple strikes to the head, to the neck, to the chest, to the groin, all of that in a very short period of time. It's just multiple strikes and dominance.
Coming up, the Rangers counterpunch with a deadly combination of blunt force and firepower. And later, the world's toughest commandos storm that kill house. North Korea's Special Operations Forces, U.S. Army Rangers. Who is deadliest?
Hey there, guys. We are back live from Los Angeles. That was some serious hand-to-hand combat there, Mac. You obviously got to roll with Tim there. How was that?
It was great. Tim's a great guy and a great operator. He is also an instructor for SOCP for the Rangers. And you got to remember, in SOCP, you got to keep it simple. When you're wearing first and second line gear, you can add additional 40 to 60 pounds worth of weight on top of you. All that athletic stuff goes out the door. You got to be simple, cause chaos, create space, get that weapon online, and do the damage.
It's a weapon system with the weapon in place.
Absolutely.
Now let's have a look at our live poll results and see who the viewers are picking to win this matchup. And the Army Rangers have it 85% to the North Koreans on 15. Jeff, is that entirely unexpected?
Absolutely not. This is an American show, but the North Koreans could make a comeback.
All right, keep those votes coming in. And remember, we will be answering your questions live tonight. Plus, we have a jaw-dropping special guest coming up in the aftermath. Stick around.
North Korea's Special Operations Forces, a 200,000-strong, fanatical communist killing machine, trained in insurgent terror tactics developed in Iraq and Afghanistan, versus the U.S. Army Rangers, elite light infantry commandos whose bravery earned 6 Bronze Stars for valor in 1993's Battle of Mogadishu. Known by millions as Black Hawk Down, the Rangers led a mission to recover the bodies of U.S. soldiers trapped in the wreckage of a Black Hawk helicopter.
Rangers died as a function of staying there for their comrades who were already dead. That's part of the code. You're all in or you're all dead.
Our team of experts has analyzed the North Koreans' hand-to-hand combat style, a combination of Hapkido and Taekwondo. But the U.S. Rangers strike with lethal techniques refined over 200 years of combat.
We're using a program called SOCP, Special Operations Combatives Program. We're doing stuff that does instant damage, that makes space for us to get back to our tools.
A decorated ranger, Tim is also a seasoned mixed martial arts fighter.
I'm coming at you from behind. What are you going to do?
The tools are the things that win the fights. So if you give me space, I'm gonna shoot you.
I actually get a hold of a weapon, what can you do?
We have our headbutts, knee stomps, make space, back to our tools.
Every single thing you're doing is simple. If I grab here, I just wasted my movement, boom. That's devastating. Now, boom, I'm on the ground, he's created space.
Do damage, make space.
The North Koreans' combination of Hapkido and Taekwondo harnesses lightning-fast strikes and their enemy's own energy to kill. But Sok P's quick, blunt force gets the U.S. Rangers rapidly back to their weapons. So which hand-to-hand combat style gets the edge?
When we look at Hapkido and Taekwondo, you're getting circular motions and multiple quick strikes with a lethal blow at the very end.
I have a ton of respect for the North Koreans' use of Taekwondo and Hapkido. But when you look at the Sok P for the U.S. Army Rangers, it's simple, it's direct, it's incredibly effective.
Both of them got the job done. Both cause a lot of damage. For me, it's a wash.
In hand-to-hand combat, edge, dead even. Using our warriors' seize and control tactics, sniper rifles were tested attacking a high-value target. Now the teams must secure the building using their assault rifles. North Korea's Special Operations Forces come armed with their standard issue Type 68 AKM. A direct descendant of the world's most lethal semi-automatic firearm.
It's the upgraded version of the Russian AK-47. It shoots a 7.62 by 39 millimeter. The bullet is slower, but has more stopping power.
Well, let's see what this weapon can do. Behind me here is the kill house. This is the building you have to take. Inside the kill house is a squad of enemy soldiers.
The kill house will test each assault rifle's damage potential, accuracy, and overall effectiveness. The experts will both have a 30-round magazine to kill all 6 targets.
And gentlemen, you will be on the clock. Jay, you're up first with the AKM. On 3, 2, 1, secure the building! Two targets down the first room, moving to the second room.
Nice, got the moving target perfectly.
Here comes the third room.
All clear!
Okay, I counted 13 rounds, and that's 30 seconds.
Jay scores 6 instant kills.
You saw this guy start to move, but you stayed disciplined, cleared the near corner first, and then you waited until you saw this weapon before you took this guy down. That plays into our X factor of discipline.
I think it's also very smart tactically. If a guy's back to you, it gives you enough time to engage the guy who is facing you, and by the time he's turned, you are already delivering rounds effectively on him.
It surprised me the amount of energy in that round.
Absolutely. This AKM has the stopping power. I know that when I get 2 in the chest, that guy's going to go down.
I think 13 rounds for 6 targets is ridiculous. That's too few. You need to make sure each of those targets are absolutely totally dead.
The way that North Koreans train with this weapon, they know that 2 rounds per enemy is enough.
And I still have 17 rounds.
Jay, appreciate your handiwork, but when you care to send only the best, you call for the U.S. Army Rangers.
Well, let's see what your boy Tim can do.
The U.S. Army Rangers attack with the M4, a state-of-the-art carbine derived from the Vietnam War era M16.
It shoots a 5.56 millimeter bullet. It has a 30-round box magazine. Collapsible stock, shorter barrel than the original version, which was the M16. Now, when I was in Afghanistan this last time, we did house after house looking for Taliban. It's a firefight in every single room. You just know, I have to shoot this guy or I don't have to shoot this guy. You don't have 1 second. 1 second, the fight's over.
Tim will try to beat Jay's 6 instant kills in less than 30 seconds.
On 3, 2, 1, secure the building!
All right, he's going to the second room.
Nice shot.
Dude, he's nailing it.
Building clear!
No joke, 30 seconds.
Tim matched Jay kill for kill, but used more than twice as many rounds.
Let's take up his face. What we see here, I don't think this guy could face any worse a fate instant kill.
Check out the grouping. That's like a 1-inch grouping on the move, under pressure. Amazing.
This is actually called a PMI, point of maximum impulse. 4 shots in that. It doesn't get any better when you're trying to hit the heart.
Let's have a look at the high speed. So this is Tim's M4.
This is one of the strengths of the M4 is that shot placement, how tight those groups are.
This is Jay's AKM pass. Boom, first round in the chest. I think it speaks volumes of the power of that kinetic energy of this round. And if you saw a target do this, you're gonna move on, right?
It all comes down to my comfort with my shot placement. If I see that guy go down and how he goes down, I'm gonna drop those 2 rounds into that guy and move on to the next threat.
When this test was actually gonna start, I look at the M4 and I go, wow, this thing is gonna just blow my socks off. But then the AKM devastates all 6 targets with 13 rounds.
He spent his magazine on the M4. He did not spend his magazine with the AKM. I think that matters. To be honest, I'd rather make sure I got that stopping power. I'm giving my edge to the AKM.
Guys, it's going to be a tough choice for me. The M4 has proven itself in combat over and over and over again, clearly. But that AK frame has killed more human beings than any other weapon system on the planet Earth.
The medium-range weapons, Edge, North Korean Special Operations Forces. Coming up, shock,
fire in the hole,
and awe. And later, a chilling real-life warrior showdown that could lead to World War III. North Korea's SOF, U.S. Army Rangers. Who is deadliest? The U.S. Army Rangers. Battle-tested soldiers on constant alert, specializing in quick strikes behind enemy lines. Versus the North Korean Special Operations Forces, SOF. Rabid assassins who gave the world a chilling glimpse of their fatal fanaticism during a 1996 covert mission into South Korea.
Things went wrong. 11 of these North Korean commandos knew that they were the weakest link, and they voluntarily submitted to execution by their own comrades. These are people who value the fatherland more than they do their own life.
Based on real-world tactical profiles, we've tested each warrior's sniper weapons and assault rifles in seizing a high-value target. In Phase 3 of our scenario, they will fend off counterattacks with anti-personnel mines. North Korea's SOF riddles the battlefield with an explosive device designed to massacre a maim. The box landmine. A high-powered killer buried by the thousands throughout the Korean peninsula.
It's a wooden box inside with TNT. Approximately 7 ounces. It's spring-loaded. So what they would do is they'll bury it. Anything in the area with basically 2 pounds of pressure, it's going to set this thing off.
North Koreans use this to defend off small-scale attacks. They also have this planted along the DMZ. They do not care if these kill innocent civilians.
Anyone walking in that area could step on that thing, it goes off.
Definitely.
We've got 3 targets representing an enemy patrol. The point man there has a ballistics gel leg that mimics both the density and viscosity of real human tissue. So when that landmine goes off, we'll see what kind of damage it can do.
The box mine will be triggered beneath the point man's foot. To determine the effective blast radius, 2 other targets, equipped with 38G and 100G shock patches, are placed 15 and 25 feet from the detonation point. If the 38G patch is tripped, the target is disoriented. If the 100G patch is tripped, the target is dead.
On 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah. Blowing stuff up is always fun.
Let's go check it out. Okay, this guy's clean, and I actually see no frag. Clean. Nothing's tripped, no frag. And let's take a look at these pressure patches. 38G definitely tripped. The 100G barely tripped. I find this really interesting because this may or may not be a lethal blow depending on what else is going on here.
The guy's definitely hurt from the primary shockwave, but let's take a look at secondary. The entire leg is amputated just above the knee. There's the end of the femur. The amount of blood loss you're gonna get from this is huge. This guy still alive. If he doesn't get help, he will die.
Landmines are not historically designed to kill someone. They're designed to wound, to maim. If I wound this guy, I can get 2 or 3 other guys to come out. And if they're coming into a field, I can get them.
When your buddy is screaming, you want to go in there, but you got thousands of mines out there. You're helpless.
Psychological warfare is an X factor that we can put into our sim. The X factor of psychological warfare is very important. You don't know if that next step is actually going to be
a loss of a limb.
The U.S. Army Rangers counter with a fragmentation mine that ambushes the enemy with lethal precision. The Claymore, plastic explosive combined with steel shrapnel, a Rangers staple since the Vietnam War.
M18A1 Claymore mine, 1.5 pounds of C4 with 700 steel balls to the front of it.
We can change the angles that we're going to set them at, where it's going to be going along parallel to the ground or down into the heads. What you can do with your imagination is what you can do with a Claymore.
For this test, a ballistics gel torso is placed 15 feet from the Claymore mine, the optimal distance for detonation. To determine the blast radius of the Claymore's higher explosive content, 2 blood-filled foam torsos with 38 and 100G shock patches are positioned 30 and 40 feet away.
On your go, let her rip.
Safety off. Fire in the hole.
All right. Take a look here. Both are tripped, Jeff. Let's take a look at the frag. Multiple pellets in the chest. Instant kill city.
The 2 remaining targets are also instant kills.
Not only did he have his shock patches tripped, the pellets are enough to kill. Take a look. One right through the shock patch, another one right here above the sternal notch, one grazing the shoulder, one on top of the head. In combination, it's a kill.
The U.S. Rangers' Claymore mine took out more targets with a larger dose of explosive and shrapnel. But the North Korean box mine can be buried by the dozens. So which special weapon gives its warrior an edge?
I mean, that Claymore, bigger punch, more pellets. Looking at the results of the test, those torsos, all 3 of them were lethal versus 3 targets for the box mine, only 1 of them being lethal.
I think the more powerful aspect of the box mine is that huge psychological aspect of where is it, when is it going to go off, can I walk into this field?
When you're talking about the box mine, it's designed to maim, maybe possible death, but it is a traditional mine where the Claymore, you can deploy it all kinds of ways. It is incredibly lethal. Claymore mine has it all the way.
The Special Weapons Edge U.S. Army Rangers. Coming up, the final battle. North Korea's SOF, communist operatives, versus the U.S. Army Rangers, defenders of freedom. The battle that could lead to World War III plays out next in the closest duel to the death in Deadliest Warrior history.
Hey guys, we are back live. That Claymore mine did some serious damage there. I wouldn't like to be on the receiving end of that. And we're about to find out who wins this modern day matchup. But before we do, our live poll results are in. And the Army Rangers have it 78% to the North Koreans on 22. Bit of a North Korean renaissance there. Jeff, do you have any final predictions before we run the simulation?
Well, we've seen the weapons tests, and there's no question that Claymore mine is going to give the Army Rangers a huge advantage. But we can't forget, this year we are considering X factors, and the North Koreans are fighting on their home turf, and that's got to give them a big advantage in the sim.
It is a massive advantage. You've got to take every advantage you can in this game. This is the live aftermath, and keep posting those comments on Twitter and Facebook, and we will answer your questions live at 11 p.m. We are 100% live, and also we have a very special guest coming up right here, so stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. This is Deadliest Warrior.
It's all about being comfortable being uncomfortable.
That is discipline that comes from just intense training. We rated in the favor of the North Korean Special Operations Force, where they have an 88 versus the Rangers 83.
U.S. Army Rangers versus the North Korean Special Operations Forces. Who is deadliest? Our team of experts has tested, recorded, and analyzed the weapons these 2 frontline fighting forces brought to the showdown. In long-range weapons, North Korea's PSL rifle was outgunned by the U.S. Army's SR-25 carbine. In medium-range weapons, the Rangers' M4 assault rifle was finished off by the SOF's AKM. For special weapons, the North Korean box landmine was blown away by the U.S. Army's Claymore. In hand-to-hand combat, SOC P fought to a dead-even draw with Hapkido and Taekwondo. While the experts have formed their opinions, all the concrete test data is turned over to Robert Daly and entered into the digital combat engine, which ultimately determines the winner. His team of engineers and historians has completed its research and assigned values to more than 100 X factors.
We evaluate these X factors like endurance, training, and discipline. Art historians quantify it into a numeric value of 1 to 100, 100 being the perfect warrior.
A really important X factor for me is the psychological warfare. The North Koreans put landmines and they don't care who it kills. They don't care if it's a civilian or an actual target that they were looking to kill.
The Rangers do want to create havoc with the military organizations, but what they don't want to do is create panic in the civilian population. But I don't think the North Korean Special Operations Forces care. What they want to do is complete their mission, and they don't care how they go about doing it. And we take that into account. It's heavily weighted towards the North Korean Special Operations Forces with an 86 versus the U.S. Army Rangers 74.
And when you look at the North Koreans, these guys are willing to submit themselves to their own execution for efficiency's sake. That's got to play into the sim.
On extremism, the North Korean Special Operations Forces really take the cake here. They're rated a 90. We very rarely rate anything that high. And the Rangers, they have an 83.
When you look at this extremism from the North Korean Special Operations Force, you have to take into consideration the Rangers' operational experience throughout the world.
The operational experience for the Rangers definitely outweighs the North Korean Special Operations Forces. And the Rangers score an 85 versus the North Koreans scoring a 78. And this is primarily due to the fact that the North Koreans only have operational experience on the Korean Peninsula.
And that leads us right into the X factor of terrain. We cannot forget how obsessed the North Koreans are with South Korea and the Korean Peninsula, whereas the U.S. Army Rangers trained to be effective globally.
The North Koreans are going to be extremely effective on the Korean Peninsula. In fact, they will have a tremendous advantage. The North Korean Special Operations Force have an 88 versus the Rangers 78.
Okay, guys, we got the historical data. We've considered the X factors. We've got the weapons data all in the sim. Let's do it.
It's time for the battle that could lead to World War III. The digital combat engine will execute 5,000 battles between 5 U.S. Army Rangers and 5 North Korean Special Operations Forces. Their battlefield, the Korean Peninsula. closest contest in Deadliest Warrior history, the Rangers prevailed, but just barely, winning 2,504 battles to the SOF's 2,496.
While the Rangers still did win, very slightly, the North Koreans were really very effective on the Korean Peninsula. They gave the Rangers all they could handle.
North Korea's Special Operations Forces had an advantage in the majority of X-Factor categories, such as terrain, extremism, and psychological warfare. But the critical X-Factors of operational experience and hand-to-hand combat went to the U.S. Army Rangers. That, plus the advanced technology of the devastating Claymore mine, which dominated with 72% effectiveness, tipped the victory in favor of the Rangers.
This matchup was incredibly close. The North Korean Special Operations Force understands the terrain very well, but I don't know if there's any other unit in the world that has experienced more real-world combat than the U.S. Army Rangers. War could break out at any moment, matching two of the world's fiercest fighting forces against each other, with World War III hanging on the outcome. This is as real as Deadliest Warrior gets.